So Aisha, what's a song that you would say has been in your head nonstop?
Alone by Doja Cat. I find myself listening to that all the time, like going back to that song. Like it's like the last song I listen to when I'm leaving, like when I'm leaving out somewhere, the last song I want to play in the car.
Right.
And as soon as I get in the car, like that's the first thing I play. So Alone by Doja Cat.
It's a three-peater.
Yes, it's a three-peater. Exactly.
Okay. And at what point did you begin to validate your inner child?
When you say validate, what do you mean? Are you asking like when did I become comfortable with who I was as a kid? Is that what you mean?
More so like with your insecurities or projections that were thrown onto you through childhood. At what point did you begin to cancel those out and become more comfortable with yourself?
Okay. Well, dang. I don't know if I ever truly got 100% comfortable with myself, just to be honest with you. Sometimes I still find myself like struggling like with the things like that was said to me as a kid. Well, I wouldn't say it directly. I don't like think back to the kid who said this and this and I'm like, oh, he you know. I just I think a lot of it manifested into how I see myself now. So to answer your question, I don't know if there ever was a point. I'm just taking it, day by day. Right. I'm actually more confident now than I was as a kid, for sure. I don't know at what point it happened. It kind of just happened as I got older.
Okay, that's fair. So taking it back as far as you can remember, what exactly was it that broke or started to affect your confidence in yourself?
As a child, I didn't feel like insecure or anything, but I remember, sometime along in like elementary school, 5th grade, I would have kids say like the meanest things to me, like, you need to get some proactive.
Kids are the worst. And as I was reading through your notes, I definitely saw that and I could immediately empathize just because when you grow up without really having a voice for yourself and you just let kids constantly tell you these hurtful things and you don't know where it's coming from. They don't even know where it's coming from, but it eats at you. So,
and I didn't even know I needed proactive. I didn't think there was anything wrong with me.
Right.
So that's kind of where it started. And I feel like ever since that point, which this was like in 5th grade, ever since then, I've kind of been a little bit more self-conscious towards what people say to me. And I hate that for myself. You don't want to like listen to people like have it affect you like that. So.
Right. And I notice now, and I just have to tell you, your makeup is very beautiful. It's even very natural.
Thank you.
Did you find yourself at any point feeling pressured to start wearing makeup or maybe cover up these blemishes so it would keep you from hearing these comments and people coming at you with hateful energy?
I want to say in 12th grade, leaving high school, I found myself wearing a lot of makeup, and it looked so terrible. I was doing like my eyebrows. My eyebrows were so thick. I was like layering on foundation
every day.
I looked so crazy. But I started wearing makeup every day. I would go to work, make sure I got up super early, put on some makeup. If I was running late to work, I would throw all my makeup in my bag and like put it on at work. Oh, yes. It was just so terrible. If I wasn't wearing makeup, I felt like I had to wear a hat and like cover my face so like nobody's looking at me. I don't know, because I don't even know how to do makeup or anything, so I don't even know how I got started with that. But again, it's going back to when I was in 5th grade, just hearing those comments. And I kind of started feeling more confident when I did have makeup on, because then I would start to get more compliments, even though it looked crazy. People were still like, giving me compliments. So then I was like, maybe I do look better with all this makeup on. Maybe I do need to do this and that. So.
And then even speaking about bullies and how you mentioned that, even taking it back to 5th grade, hearing the comments, it started there and just not even knowing where it's coming from within them to tell you that. You mentioned that you were contacted by one of your bullies years later, and I'm sure you had no clue that was coming. I'm sure you had no idea what to even think when you saw that.
Yeah.
But what were the first couple of thoughts once you processed what even happened?
My first thought was, wasn't you the same little boy in 5th grade talking about I look like this and this, blah, 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 blah. I didn't say that to him. I didn't even respond, but that was my first thought. It was like, okay, of course they coming back. Once you up, they want to like, be all over you, blah, blah, blah. So yes, that was mine. That's how I felt. Back then they're watching. Now I'm hot. They don't want me.
It's too easy. And it's always like years later when you just kind of grow up and think you're going past it, in which I would say you definitely have made the strides to grow past it. When they pop up and it's like, sometimes I would think it's even retrograde energy.
Yeah.
Like, what made you think about me?
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes I do think it's like the guilt that eats people up eventually, and realizing they could have been a lot more empathetic or nicer in situations where they definitely had to or didn't have to project negativity and spiteful comments. So aside from that, and knowing what you know today on how to heal yourself and how to cater to yourself and give yourself loving comments, how would you combat hurtful comments towards your appearance if you were to receive any moving forward?
Well, lately, for a few years now, I want to say around about 2 years, I've been doing a lot of soul searching and like inner work, like meditation, praying. I'm Muslim, so I'm supposed to be praying 5 times a day. So I've been doing more of that, and just been doing a lot of shadow work as well. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
So it deals a lot with what we're talking about today, just thinking about your your younger self, and figuring out what went wrong when you was a kid. So doing that has helped me a lot with dealing with things today. Right. So combating it, honestly, I really just ignore comments. But I will say though, I do overthink a lot, and a lot of the times I do find myself like staying stuck on like a comment or something. How I don't know. I would love suggestions on how to combat that, because honestly, I'm still dealing with it. Just not being so focused on mean things.
And that's so relatable. Just not focusing on getting to the finish line of healing so fast, because it's a lifelong process in reality. So just the fact that you're vulnerable and saying I'm still dealing with these things and sometimes they do still get to me is very commendable for you to even share with the audience and share with us in our conversation today. So Aicha, I kind of want to do a bit of a deep dive into these questions about specifically your struggle with acne. At what age did it really start to show up for you?
It started to show up when I was in 4th grade, and I didn't even notice again, or I don't remember myself noticing. But a girl came up to me one time. I was in line. We were in line waiting to go to the restroom. She was standing right behind me. And I remember turning around, and she said, she looked at me. She looked like all around my face. And she was like, "You need to drink some more water." And I'm like, what is she talking about? Okay. And then I just later started to realize like she was talking about my face, the bumps on my face. So elementary school is when and it's pretty early too. Elementary school, that's early for acne. I don't know what was going on. Maybe it was like a hormonal problem. And
That's just such a brave thing to say as a child to another child in elementary school.
I'm telling you.
The entitlement.
Oh,
it's
my
crazy.
goodness.
And then once you started to notice what I guess the other kids were talking about, or once it started to actually like hit home for you that you were developing breakouts, where would you notice them most on your face? Like, did you have any specific problem areas?
Yeah, my forehead. Definitely, it was my forehead for the most part.
Okay.
Yeah, and then later around like my cheeks and my chin, and yeah.
And did you ever hear any of these comments at home about your skin?
Yes, I would hear it from my aunt. I remember my aunt like came to visit us one time, and I was opening the door to let her in. And the first thing she said to me, not even hi or anything, the first thing she said to me was, she's like, "Aisha, what happened to your face?" Oh my God, I want to cry thinking about that, honestly.
Yeah, it's okay. And if you do, like, this is a vulnerable conversation. So, like I said, I really appreciate you being here and just giving yourself the floor to speak about it, because it's tough. Especially as a child growing up, you never really know what the world's going to throw at you in comments and things like that. So, I hear you. I really am here with you. It's okay. I have to hug you. Girl, I have been there. I understand. It is so okay. You are so much better than that. You're so much better than a comment.
Oh, look at
That
me,
has
this
nothing
is
to do with
so
you.
pretty.
Too pretty to be crying. What?
Thank you.
You're looking beautiful too.
And see, I thought about that on the way up here. So dealing with those hurtful comments, at any point, was there anyone in your family or like close circle of friends that you felt was there for you to defend you against those comments?
Honestly, no. I grew up, I was like the oldest. So I mean, I was the oldest, but I also have a cousin that I consider my older sister.
Yeah.
You know, we kind of grew up together, but we're 10 years apart. But I've always looked up to her, and she's kind of like the person I went to for advice, and you know, who would stick up for me and tell me like what to say when people said these things. But you know how like sometimes you're in school and you know you have a sister or brother that's older than you, you're in the same school, you know, you have them to like kind of look after you. Since I was the oldest and we were 10 years apart, I really only had me, and I have two younger siblings. So I'm looking after them, and I can only like look after myself. So I never really felt, you know, safe or like I had anybody, excuse me, or like I had anybody to kind of be there for me. So yeah, that was tough.
I bet. I really can imagine, especially in a whole school of kids, like you said, just coming at you with, you need to drink more water, you need proactive. Was there ever a time where you got close to speaking up for yourself and just swallowed it, or was it just never in you to really buck on somebody?
No, not when I was in elementary school. I don't think I ever really spoke up for myself like how I should have. I remember like telling a teacher one time, like, oh, he said this and that, but nothing really came from that. But I did find that after leaving elementary school, going to middle school, I kind of developed like a hard shell. And I would get, I just remember being so angry and mad at everybody. I would always be in arguments with boys, especially boys, and girls. I would always have like loud outbursts, yelling, having the teacher telling me to leave the class because I'm doing this and that. But come to find out, the only reason I was so mad and angry was because how I was treated when I was, you know, a kid, like younger. So it kind of manifested into me just being angry all the time, and that led on into high school as well, just always being mad, angry, just mad at everybody.
And it's hard when you realize no one's really looking at the backstory of how you got there. They're just looking at how reactive you are now.
Right.
And I think it's beautiful that you share this, because I do believe in reactive abuse. I do think that is something that's not really talked about or given a platform, but it's basically where you're provoked and provoked and provoked until you actually give a reaction. And then you're kind of made to look like somewhat of the crazy one, like, why is she reacting like this? All I said was this, but it's hurtful. It's a dart, and you can't really remove those words all the time the way you want to or as quickly as you want to.
Exactly.
As far as your friends and your close circle of family or just anyone else that you had around you to kind of support you when you were more so speaking up for yourself and defending yourself, were there any people who would point that out to you and kind of help you realize that this is where this anger is coming from, or was that more so a self-realization thing?
It was a self-realization thing. I never had anybody say, maybe it's because this and that. I kind of just took it upon myself to just do some soul searching, like I told you, and think back to my like my younger years. Like I was telling you earlier, I was actually meditating a couple months ago, and
that's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. The meditation exercise had to deal with going back to your younger self, and when I was doing that, I came back to, you know, this moment when I was thinking about what was said to me as a kid, blah, 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 and I just started breaking down in the middle of me meditating. I'm like, oh, so that's what it was.
Right.
So I'm actually just now realizing like that this is where all that stemmed from.
So you found that pressure point in like going within, the shadow work and everything in between. I love that for you.
Thank you.
I really do. So speaking of meditation, I'm just so glad that you have a tool such as that, and the other tools that you mentioned, like shadow work and going within for your inner child and speaking to yourself lovingly and making sure that you know that you don't need validation from anyone else but yourself. I find that to be so beautiful, because in a world where I feel like spirituality is really a high talking point now, people are getting these resources and information pieces like you just shared with us, and really figuring out where those pain points are so that they can stop the chatter in their head that tells them that you're not enough. We come to a point where we validate ourselves, and I'm just so glad that you trusted me with this information and sharing how you got to the point of validating yourself and building your own confidence.
Yeah, this was needed for sure. I went through a roller coaster of emotions, but I really do appreciate it. It helped me a lot.
For sure. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for making me comfortable.
Of course, girl.